Just before we get started with today's video, I want to thank Brilliant for sponsoring it. To support Today I Found Out and learn more about Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/todayifoundout and sign up for free. In the video today, we're answering a viewer question because Nick R asks us, is it true there was once a girl with no vagina who got pregnant after giving oral sex and then getting stabbed in the stomach? Alright Nick, well just to start off, we got to say that we were really pretty damn skeptical on this one just from the sound of it. I mean, it's got urban legend written all over it. However, upon researching it just a little bit, we actually found a paper published in the very reputable British Journal of Obstetrics and Gynaecology in 1988 titled Oral Conception, Impregnation via the Proximal Gastrointestinal Tract in a Patient with an Aplastic Distal Vagina. Case report. So, it would appear that unless the author was simply writing up a very detailed practical joke and then managed to somehow slip it by the editors of that esteemed journal, then it very well might actually be true. So, when you were taught that a woman can't get pregnant from engaging in oral sex, well, apparently it's actually theoretically possible given the right set of circumstances. That is why a 15-year-old girl in the small African country of Lesotho who was born without a vagina and who had engaged only in fellatio with her boyfriend had doctors puzzled when she gave birth to a healthy son. The young girl, whose name is not given in the case report, arrived at a local hospital with all the signs of a woman in labor. Upon examination, doctors found no vagina, only a shallow skin dimple. Regardless of how the baby was conceived, it was ready to emerge from the womb. With no birth canal, the baby's only option of escape was cesarean section. Doctors delivered the baby via C-section, weighing at 2.8 kilograms or 6.17 pounds, and then set out to solve the mystery of his conception. As they say in the case study, after performing the emergency C-section, while closing the abdominal wall, curiosity could not be contained any longer and the patient was interviewed with the help of a sympathetic nursing sister. The whole story did not become completely clear during that day, but with some subsequent inquiries, the whole saga emerged. The girl's hospital records showed that only 278 days earlier, about 9 months, she had arrived at the hospital with knife wounds to her stomach. So, how did she get these? Well, according to the case study, the patient was well aware of the fact that she had no vagina and she had started oral experiments after disappointing attempts at conventional intercourse. Just before she was stabbed in the abdomen, she had practiced fellatio with her new boyfriend and was caught in the act by her former lover. The fight with knives ensued. She had never had a period and there was no trace of lochia after the cesarean section. She had been worried about the increase in her abdominal size but could not believe she was pregnant, although it had crossed her mind more often as her girth increased and as people around her suggested that she was pregnant. She did recall several episodes of lower abdominal pain during the previous year. While performing surgery to repair the stab wounds, doctors found 2 holes that opened the girl's stomach to her abdominal cavity. They also noticed that the girl arrived at the hospital with an empty stomach, resulting in the absence of large amounts of stomach acid or any other food matter. Thus, it is thought that in the most unlikely of circumstances that the sperm in the girl's stomach gained access to the girl's reproductive organs through her injured gastrointestinal tract. Even given this access, it's still a long way for the sperm to travel, so how is it theorized that they survived the journey? Well, in the first place, her stomach was mostly empty of stomach acid, and sperm is protected from non-favorable environments by a nourishing medium called ejaculate. This ejaculate would have helped protect this girl's new lover's sperm from the remaining stomach acid, among other hazards. The stabbing also seems to have happened almost immediately after the girl ingested the sperm, so it needn't have survived in the stomach for very long. And don't forget about the strength of numbers. Sperm don't travel alone. Even if 90% of them don't survive the beginning of the journey, you're still left with millions of the tiny little swimmers, and you only need one. Dr. Peter Schlegel, chairman of urology at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Weill Cornell Medical Center in New York, weighed in on the issue and pointed out that sperm can normally swim up and out of the reproductive cavity and into the abdominal cavity. The sperm are naturally there at times, and eggs are naturally there, he says. Eggs are released from the ovary, and they sort of dance around before they are taken up by the fallopian tube. In fact, getting pregnant as the result of sperm originating in your abdomen is possible enough that in the 1980s, during the early days of fertility treatments, doctors performed a procedure called DIPI, direct intraperitoneal insemination, during which they injected sperm into the lower abdomen, hoping that it would find its way to an egg. What makes this set of circumstances even more amazing is that the doctors thought that this was the girl's first or nearly first ovulation, otherwise one would expect that inspiciated blood in the uterus and salpinges would have made fertilization difficult. So, in the end, the big question is, well, did it really happen? Well, it was published in a reputable journal, and no, it didn't happen on April the 1st, rather it happened in September of 1988. So, we definitely have a young girl with no vagina having a baby. So, aside from immaculate conception, which is ruled out because it's immaculate conception, and also that the father somewhat resembled the baby, the theory listed in the study does seem plausible enough, and it certainly is theoretically possible, as pointed out by many doctors. So, we are going to say that yes, this actually happens, even though we really hesitated to push publish on this one because it just seems like such an urban legend. But similar strange things have happened, such as the somewhat disturbing instance of a 5-year-old girl who gave birth to a healthy child. As you might expect, she holds the record for the youngest person to ever give birth. So if you're wondering how it turned out for the girl who was stabbed in the stomach, who was impoverished and probably would not have been able to support the child had it not been for this bizarre set of circumstances, well, they talk about that in the case study as well. The young mother, her family, and the likely father adapted themselves rapidly to the new situation, and some cattle changed hands to prove that there were no hard feelings. All's well that ends well, we suppose. Now, science can be a pretty amazing thing, often explaining the seemingly unexplainable. We like that, and if you like it too, I think you'll also like Brilliant. You've heard me talk about Brilliant before. They're a learning platform that focuses on active learning. This is where you're given a short bit of information on a scientific concept, and then you're asked to solve a problem that's based on that information. It's a very effective way to learn, and it's what Brilliant do best. Right now, Brilliant have something that you could adopt as a somewhat late New Year's resolution. It's called Daily Problems, and it's 5 minutes a day that you can use to exercise your brain and learn something new. Each problem provides you with the context and framework that you need to tackle it. This means you can learn concepts by applying them. That's that active learning I was talking about. This sort of short daily practice can lead you from curiosity to mastery in far less time than you would think. So go to brilliant.org/TodayIFoundOut and finish your day a little smarter. The first 200 people to do so will get 20% off the annual subscription, and they can also view all of the previous problems in the archives. You can also find a link below. And as always, thank you for watching.